Hey, what's up? It's Jared with State of Tech, and I wanted to talk today about something that I think we need to stop bothering with, and that's complaining about the notch and the headphone jack on smartphones. Now, I know that there isn't a whole lot to talk about with smartphones because there's just been intermittent changes, and so, of course, the number one thing that tech reviewers complain about is the notch and the lack of a headphone jack, and I'm really tired of it because I just think that a lot of these tech reviewers don't have anything intelligent to say about these new devices, so they complain about the obvious things that most people watching are going to probably agree with, and that's the fact that they would prefer not to have a notch and they would prefer to have a headphone jack. So forced change happens to push progression. I mean, we know that. People don't normally like change, so they complain about it. Sometimes change is for the good and for the benefit of us, the people, and other times we kind of wonder why that change needed to happen. I mean, if it was not for laws, like it becoming a law, we wouldn't wear seatbelts. I mean, they put seatbelts in cars for our safety, but nobody was wearing them, so they had to make a law enforcing them. And because there's a law, now most of us believe that it's safer to wear a seatbelt in our car than it is to go without it. I mean, if you get in a car accident and the seatbelt isn't there to hold you in, a lot of times you'll get damaged. And so it took a law going into place. It took us being forced into that in order to actually start to take advantage of the seatbelt that's there to save us. Now, smartphones have had Bluetooth for a long time, but that didn't necessarily mean that there were good Bluetooth headphones out there. I mean, there were very few good Bluetooth headphones that were wireless out there until Apple and other manufacturers started taking away the headphone jack. Now, sometimes it takes forcing the hand of the market in order for good things to start happening. I mean, the AirPods that Apple came out with are fantastic, and they're a great example of what other manufacturers need to do in creating a device that's not only good quality audio for your listening experience, but also adds value to the experience of the device. I mean, wired headphones can only do one thing, and that is allow you to listen to music and maybe start and stop and, have a phone conversation or something like that. They're very limited. But when you go Bluetooth, there's additional things that are added there, and it improves the experience. And now I never plug wired headphones into my phone, even with the dongle, because there's a better experience out of the wireless headphones that I have. Now, I have no choice in my truck because my truck doesn't have Bluetooth audio. I have to use an adapter for that. I either have to use a dongle and plug in with a wire, which means not being able to charge my phone, or I have to use an aftermarket Bluetooth device, which actually isn't really that bad. I'll put a link down in the description below to a video that I did on one, and that allows you to be able to charge your phone in the car and use Bluetooth audio, even if you have a car that might be a little bit older or doesn't have that feature. When the iPhone X came out, I was just blown away at the fact that I had the same size screen as much larger phones that I had had previous. I liked having that smaller phone because it fit better in my pocket. It was more comfortable to hold in my hand for a longer period of time, and it was just overall a better experience. It took a little bit of getting used to for the notch, but I would rather have more screen real estate and a smaller phone. The alternative is to have a big phone and, of course, a big screen, but the phone and the body of the phone ends up being pretty large as well. And so there is a little bit of a sacrifice there, but it's not really as annoying as everybody else makes it out to be. So the alternative is wasted space on the front of the phone. In order to have a large screen, that means the body of the phone has to be larger. So I would rather have the notch, have a large screen on a small phone than the other way around. So why don't manufacturers include headphone jacks? I mean, there's definitely room. We see other manufacturers including them still, but in my opinion, I think it is to make sure that there's additional room for things that do actually matter. I would rather have longer battery life because they could fit just that much larger of a battery inside the phone. The inclusion of wireless charging, and of course, just the power consumption is much lower over Bluetooth than it is having to power headphones and speakers. by making the Bluetooth headphones have their own power and only having to transmit over Bluetooth low energy signal. That means that the battery life is extended, especially if you like to listen to music for long periods of time. A lot of people say it's a major inconvenience, but all the manufacturers include headphones that work with their devices. And of course, with the longer battery life, those larger batteries inside the devices, that means we can go all day without charging our phone. We don't have to worry about that anymore. So having to dual purpose, charge, and want to listen to music at the same time, it's not that big of a deal, not nearly as big of a deal as it used to be. So the bottom line is, if you don't like it, of course you can choose a device from a manufacturer that still includes these things or doesn't include the notch. Samsung is holding on as long as possible because they know that there are people out there that are going to do whatever it takes and buy whatever they have to have the headphone jack and to not have that notch on their phone. But that's not going to last forever. These manufacturers all follow the trends eventually, whether they're the leader of the trend or the follower of the trend. It's just the way it goes. So think about this. There's something that has a notch that you have never complained about that's on something that you use every single day, and it's your vehicle. When you look out the front windshield of your vehicle, there is a notch there where your rear view mirror goes and whatever other sensors are on the front of your windshield. That is something that has to take place because we want the most screen space as possible. We want to be able to see as much out of the front of our car without any distractions as possible, but there needs to be a place for the rear view mirror. So do we complain about our vehicles having a notch? No, because we want as much visible space as possible so that we can see as much of the world around us while we're driving. And then they put that rear view mirror there, which in some vehicles really does get in the way, but the rear view mirror is also a necessity as we do need to see behind us. Think of that as your front-facing cameras. So let's stop complaining about the notch. Technology is always going to advance whether we like it or not, and things are going to change. You know who was upset when Blu-ray was chosen over HD DVD? Me. I had some HD DVDs and an HD DVD player. I felt that it was the better platform, as did most people with half a brain, but Blu-ray is the one that took off, and of course, nobody even remembers HD DVD today. It's technology and it advances, and we either jump on board or we get left behind. So it's time we get over this notch and headphone jack and start talking about the actual technology that matters that's in these devices. This is a movement that's happening. We are getting rid of headphone jacks, and eventually they will be no more, even in some of the more obscure brands. The notch is probably here to stay for a while until technology advancements improve to the point where all of this stuff can take place underneath the screen. So until then, we just have to deal. We have to live with the technology that we have or stay in the past with the technology of the past. Of course, there are people that held on to their landline phones forever and did not want to go the way of the wireless because people could listen in or whatever. But technology advances and you either jump on board or you get left in the past. So it's time that you stop complaining, and I'm not speaking to you directly. I'm probably mostly speaking to the other tech reviewers out there who keep this argument going. The notch and the headphone jack are a thing of the past. It's time we get over it and embrace the future and start focusing on better things. So if you have some thoughts on that, share that down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. I know that this is a very touchy subject for a lot of people because they just absolutely don't like the notch, or maybe they have lots of headphones that are wired, and I totally understand. I have lots of wired headphones still that I can no longer use, but that is just the state of technology. How many other pieces of technology have you had to put away because they just no longer interface with the world these days? Probably a lot. It's just the world we live in. So until next time, I hope that I didn't offend you or upset you, but actually just encourage you to focus on the positives, the good things that are taking place in technology, and not worry about the things that may or may not make sense all the time. We know that the notch is annoying. It's time we get past that and start focusing on better things. So until next time, my name's Jared with State of Tech. I hope all is well with you, and we'll see you in the next one.